I firm states ought to ban lethal autonomous weapons. State ignore scientists to advocate for laws. BBC 19. A group of scientists called for a ban on the development of weapons controlled by artificial intelligence. The comments were made at an American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting in Washington, D.C. HRW is one of the 89 non-governmental organizations, 50 countries to press for an international treaty. Ryan Garapi, Chief Technology Officer at Clearpath Robotics, backs the ban proposal when they fail. They fail in unpredictable ways. He told BBC state control of weapons allows them to divert the control of the people across 11. The emphasis on the rational management of the means of violence meant that the underlying principles governing arms control efforts generated a large law concerning the governments of military technology. As Foucault puts it, governmentality is power, which is the institutions and calculations and tactics as the population as the target, and apparatus of security as its essential technical instrument. I focus on the underlying elements of the process of controlling arms understood as technology of social and political control, and as a set of institutional practices designed to manage and channel the use of violence both within and between states. Contemporary security embodies a logic of social control in which the goal of arms control is to reinforce and reinstate the state's legal monopoly on lethal violence, to maintain the geopolitical structure of contemporary world politics, and to suppress certain humanitarian norms of civilized warfare. Link. States like Russia and the United States want a ban on lethal autonomous weapons after they've made them to exhibit control over them, not because they dislike them. CSKB 19. Russia and the United States are continuing the fight against the Treaty for Killer Robots. Russia and the United States repeatedly rejected the need for human control. Both states are investing to develop weapons systems with engaging human control, so if you're selecting targets, Russia said it is premature to discuss lethal autonomous weapon systems until they're produced. It is also argued that autonomy is not essential of lethal autonomous weapon systems. The impact is a never-ending war for security. It's the culmination of militarism necessitates violence across the globe. Rishi 11. We must ask whether sacrificing the soldiers' lives, killing over 100,000 Iraqi civilians, including a disproportionate number of women and children, destroying the immediate human security of several million others, while all providing profits for Western corporations, constitutes being a force for good. A risk management through military intervention can generate significant negative feedback or blowback that creates more risk, inevitably leads to a loss of control. Risk management becomes a cyclical process with no end in sight, never-ending war, and military-led risk mitigation generating new and potentially more dangerous risks, deemed susceptible to further military solutions, and so on. Absolute security cannot be achieved. The exercise of military force becomes ineffective or worse, wholly counterproductive. The role of the ballot is to vote for the side that best deconstructs the security mindset. Security intrinsically hurts civilians and legitimizes power imbalance. Since Cooper 06. Its critical security studies perspective is concerned to deconstruct the mainstream discourse on arms control, to illuminate the interests that underpin perceived wisdom, to outline the structures of power established by current practices, and to consider how these might be extended to build a system of disarmament from below to reinvent arms control. It ignores to the extent which arms limitation downplays the role of power in shaping discourse and practice. Arms limitation is an asymmetric one designed to preserve the military hegemony of the U.S. and the West. This system legitimizes the stark disparities between spending on arms compared with spending on human security. A more emancipatory system of disarmament from below to the promotion of human security may be realizable. Both disarmament and arms limitation initiatives are the asymmetrical arms limitation system that has replaced the emphasis on between the superpowers. Arms limitation is the way in which it is structured to consolidate and preserve the military superiority of the U.S. in particular. There, other than reinforcing security, this pro-military imbalance promotes insecurity by creating incentives or other actions to pursue asymmetric technologies or strategies that offsets their conventional superiority, diverting resources that could be expended on human security to militarism. Arms limitation may promote an illusion of relative security while positively fostering a variety of insecurities. And the advocacy is us calling for states to ban lethal autonomous weapons as part of a bottom-up call for radical rethinking of the security apparatus first. Allowing states to control the flow of weapons keeps the power asymmetrical, which makes conflicts and violence inevitable. The F is a necessary prerequisite to change. Cooper 06. There are both material and ideational factors imminent in contemporary international system that suggest radical emancipatory disarmament can be constituted. First, the success of existing disarmament initiatives highlights for real relevance. This suggests the potential for a more radical disarmament agenda by simultaneously deconstructing hegemonic framings of the arms limitation problem and developing alternative narratives that contain inherently transformatory meanings. Second, the possibility of a truly progressive practice of arms limitation, a kind of disarmament from below. Campaigns such as those on linemen's or conflict diamonds demonstrates the potential for networked and adaptive rhizomatic movements. Such swarming resistances to hegemony have the potential to exploit the uncontrollable spaces of flows of networks and information ages, to challenge the face of anarchy and a supposed military technology imperative that lie at the heart of arms control theory and thus affect change by eroding the legitimacy of institutions and actors upholding militarism. Such movements have the potential to resolve the perennial debate over which has to come first, armament whichever has to come first before disarmament is realized, radical reduction of armaments or radical political change. The very act of campaigning for a radical disarmament agenda presages radical change in the nature of local global politics. Third, to the extent that the threat of weapons of mass destruction terrorism is rooted in material conditions, the safest possible response is to eliminate the very weaponry that might be utilized. It is clear that we are now facing a range of new and old arms limitation challenges that will require a radically different kind of arms regulation. Traditional supply-side initiatives based on the military ability of nation-states to supervise the physical movement of military technology will inevitably be subject to declining utility. In sum, the challenge of controlling contemporary military technology is to be addressed effectively. This will entail a move away from control Control primary based on physical management of objects and their accumulation and movement within or across borders. It will be marked by a move from the asymmetry of hegemonic supplier-dominated control and non-proliferation instruments, and imply a far greater role for recipients and the peripheries. The first step to resolving a security mindset is to actively advocate against military power, and AdFalid is a vote against the security mindset and that first step towards deconstruction. We basically can't do anything. We can't talk about war impacts. We can't talk about like the real world, because the real world is based in security, and like that's probably bad because of all the impacts listed in this case. So please vote affirmative to stop the security mindset.
Okay, let me just like grab my phone for cross. Okay. Okay, 3 minutes. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, time starts now. What's the thesis of the K?
The thesis of the K is that we should reject like all arms control,
actually, like,
but
okay,
specifically we should ban lethal autonomous weapon.
What's your theory of power?
What's my theory of power? I'd say that we should reject the notion that states should control the power.
But like, no, but like, I guess what I'm asking is like, how does power operate that like creates violence?
Power operates in a way like we see that violence is caused by like the states just controlling the means of violence in the first place.
So can violence not exist like without a state?
The violence can exist without a state, but we see that the biggest impacts in the world. We see the biggest impacts in the world are the impacts of the state.
But violence exists outside of state, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then how does that like warrant your theory of power? Prove it's true.
Basically, what we're saying is like that. Like we're not saying that we solve for all of violence, but we're saying that specifically the violence of war can be solved by the affirmative.
Why do we care about war or death?
Because death is bad. Like if you want to get into why death is good, go ahead.
Why is death bad? I want to get into that.
Death is bad because we see that like that's like the only impact you can actually see like in real world. Like we're scared of dying. It's just like a biological thing. Like the point of humanity is to live. But I'd also say that there's other impacts.
Why is the purpose of like humanity to live? Why is the purpose of humanity to live?
That's just how biology works. But I'd say there's other impacts such as dehumanization and the impacts of war. Like the
purpose of humanity is to like reproduce and like pass on genes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I'd say it's probably.
What about like queer people? Are they like antithetical to humanity and like we should reject them?
No.
But they're not fulfilling like our quote unquote purpose, which is to reproduce.
No, I'd just say the purpose is to live. It's not to reproduce. Like
okay,
our purpose is what we do in our life, not how to reproduce.
Why is extinction bad? Like, let's say no one else reproduces, that leads to extinction. Is that bad?
I wouldn't say extinction out of no reproduction is a bad thing, because we just don't want to hurt people. We don't want people to lose their rights to life, because like the purpose of life is to survive.
Always bad, right?
Huh?
So extinction isn't always bad.
Extinction isn't always bad if it was literally just willed by the people not wanting to reproduce anymore. Like, if you wanted to just not reproduce, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I have a problem with, like, random state governments deciding that other people don't deserve to live anymore.
Okay. I guess, like, did you read any method cards? Like, anything? I haven't downloaded the doc.
Define a method card.
Like, any reasons why, like, to reject the NC method, any perm preempts, anything like that?
Nope.
Like, anything to extend to try to take out the NC?
I'd say the only thing is that you should try and meet the role of the ballot. We should really just be trying to talk about the security mindset.
Okay, and no a prioris, right?
No.
Okay, I'll just take like a minute 30 because I gotta do something. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Wait, actually,
if you're just doing something, I don't mind you not taking time.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, 1 second. My dog went outside. It's kind of muddy, so I have to like dry off.
Go for it.
Okay. Be right back.
What if, hypothetically, the last speech was given in a George Bush accent?
No.
Understandable.
If anything, it'd be an Obama accent. Because I don't have many other accents up my repertoire. Although my Obama isn't that great. But yeah, I get. So I read that in like a little under 5, so I can add a bunch of underview stuff. That's cool. Hype for stuff.
You should add just only underview.
Yeah,
That is it.
obviously, yeah. Because I don't need much more on the case level.
Like the underview that I read against you, but bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, back. Sorry about that. Am I muted?
No,
Nope.
you're good. Just
Okay.
start prep whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah. I'll take 2 minutes. Time starts now. Do you mind, like, by the way, flex prep? Is that good with you?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Is debate good?
Is debate good? I'd say it's good insofar as it's educational and we can make change in the debate space.
Okay. Wait. We can. Does that make change good? Like, just because we can make change.
Well, I'd say debate is good because we can make change. Like I'm like.
But why is
specifically,
change?
I'm choosing to affirm because I want to solve the problems with the security mindset. Like that's why I'm here.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Is George Bush in here still?
I
No,
am
he finished the round. It's such a bad accent. It's just a little
I wanted
too
to
late.
see it.
the George Bush accent.
Yeah,
I could give my 2 AR again.
do it. I
No,
have 5
I'm
minutes. I have
I'm
5 minutes.
just
I have 5 minutes until my next class starts. Let's go.
Yeah.
dang. Here, I'm just gonna do an
the one in
accent.
R hasn't even, or the one in.
So
NC
some would
hasn't
say
even-
that hypothetically, I was a bad president because some would say that hypothetically, I caused 9/11 like Bush did 9/11. However, I simply say that's not true. I
Good
George,
question. What's your favorite color?
uh, I, no,
All right,
yeah,
we're gonna see what's white then.
I had to say that's a good answer just because I'm George Bush. You know my history with the Middle East.
Okay, that was 2 minutes, by the way. Do you want me to? Like, is it okay if I just disclose the analytics?
If you just disclose the, I mean, sure. If
Okay.
you don't like. I mean, like the reality is I need to get used to speed. So.
Okay, sounds good. Then I'll just like crop out the stuff because it just like shit I made up on the fly. By the way.
Nice.
It's just gonna be a one-off. Don't worry.
The one off.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten too complacent with just reading off the doc.
I do that too. I only flow off the doc.
Yeah.
A lot of rounds I don't even flow. Like probably not smart, but I usually don't flow.
No, I know. Like, I mean, like especially like K rounds. It's like, what's even the point?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like big picture work mainly. Like this will probably just come down to like who wins theory of power. Okay, tell me when you have the doc open and you're ready.
Oh, did you send it?
Yeah, I just threw it. Oh wait, no, I didn't. Oops.
Yes.
Oops, but just pretend that didn't happen. A little embarrassing.
Wait, that makes you look like your staff. Hold up.
Here's what?
I gave you a custom rank.
Oh God, but don't encourage it,
Oh jeez, there goes my phone.
dude. He's like I hate that so much. Wait, where did he go? Did he lose the rank?
Yes.
I moved
Oh,
it
it's still
down.
like Okay, it was like separate category at first.
It still is. It's just below Congress.
Oh my god, why are your tags
So long.
Oh my lord!
What? It's to explain the cards well. I'm doing you a service.
Yeah, service.
During the ACCS, I was just like changing the font size because like it's really small, and I made it to 15 because I'm like blind. So it's tough life. Are you ready? No rush. Just like tell me when you're ready, though.
Oh, were you asking me? I'm totally ready. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. 7 minutes on the clock. Just one off, so I'm not gonna really give an order. I'll also like signpost when I get to the line by line part. I guess like just rebuttal stuff. Okay, 7 minutes on the clock. Time starts now. All subjectivities are governed by self-reflection. Disability drives an effective response to primary and secondary pity between the non-disabled and the subject, and the disabled subject. Primary pity removes the ego's ability to distinguish between the disabled other by forcing the subject to reconcile with the other fact that the ability status is temporary. This temporary status is a contrast with the ego's investment in healthiness and control to regain itself from the ego death. The ego invokes secondary pity, the distancing of the ego from the disabled person or object, elicits any notions of superiority through sadness or drive to eliminate the disability through social consciousness, through the medicalization or institutionalization. Rule 15, primary pity entails a mixing up of the self and other with that ego and becoming impermeable to pain that may belong to someone else's. This effective response can be feel unbearable because it involves a drive towards disability, which means the ego's investment in health of it to control the contemplate the other person's suffering, to confront questions: could this happen to me? Secondary pity tends to heal the primary pity's effects by covering or converting primary pity into a feeling that's unbearable. At the same time, to defend the threat against the ego by aggrandizing someone's ability to have someone else's expense. Secondary pity covers their abilities, like cultures, the cliches, reaction disability calls for a cure. These effects enlarge the ego's pity. The moment we feel primary pity, and then almost before we can blink, we deny that we've ever felt it. Primary pity is so unsettling because our culture has been driven to kill everyone in the name of secondary pity. We've also been driven or to lock people into institutions, all in the interest of not acknowledging the moment of secondary pity. The one who sees use lowest the form is locus parentis. Their action of governing the actions of other nations creates a distinction between ourselves and as full smart subjects and irrational crazy nations who will engage in bad actions. This sustains the divide between a child and an adult. This developmental logic is supercharged partially by validating the inferior and superior divides. Mills and Lefranc says 18. The Western view of childhood, the transitional state between adulthood, has been embedded in ideologies of colonialism and modernity. Los parentis has been used to justify interventions of the powerful to protect those who are childlike, not to hidden the invested in the capitalism as well as the social, political, and psychological agendas of power and the control of those who are in the local parental role. These socially constructed convert the parent-child relationships. The logic that underlies these power relationships legitimize the variations of regimes by ruling and promote the subordinate or certain groups of the nature of benevolence. These forms of paternalistic encounters that serve to debase and erase the racialized and patriarchal societies, disabled adults and children that knows, but also re-inspire their children to become inferior and incompetent. The important place between these mainstream corporate academia and upon the subfields of developmental studies within, which serve as the same function as maintaining the white supremacists, reproducing majority disabled people are seen as like childlike. The very concept of childlike, a concept that emanates from what Euro-Western adult-centric constructs of childhood. The child is a function of the ontological other to politics who separate this by framing violence as inevitable and legitimize the child being the best interest. Societally is physically invest in the character of childhood. All appeals to the child is metaphorical. When you see the belief that better future is complicit with a logical rehabilitative futurism that constantly renders the disabled bodies ontologically negative. Imagining a better future threaten the disabled notion of the child. These notions of futurism necessitate the cure, elimination, disability model too. The image of the child, innocent child, is inextricable from disability. The child is in a priest of the telethon. Display of pity that demeans the child. That the child makes an excellent alibi for ableism because the idea of is not a figure of unthinkable. Who would after all this come against reproduction and future against life? Would anyone who come out against the child created here? It might not even feel a future. The logic relies on rehabilitative futurism. This is survival of the child threatened by disability. The futurism is habitually imagined in terms of fantasizes and eradication, disability grounded in a rehabilitative future. They're a foundation lacking how we interpret the world around us, causing a forced reconciliation by an attempt to frame ourselves as complete and attempting to overcome our physical disability. As a result, we frame ourselves around the ego and the struggle, the creating of a blind subject, leading us to submitting to the culture that we can never escape. The blind person pushes back upon their lack of the desired subject because they don't view themselves as completed. The disabled subject viewed as incomplete terminates their distancing because of the basis of superiority model 15. Disability metaphors are approximate. These signifiers invoke a physical, mental injury, the which disability understands as homosexual identity disability. It refers to identify the ways which each subject manages to knot together the symbolic imaginary reality. Sit home is the only way that the subject can access the meaning of produced with the subject. Sit home is arbitrary. The sit home thread is other. In order to be constituted as a subject, one must be metaphorically blind. The subject is subjectivity is blindness to determination, blindness to fixation of enjoyment. Responsible subject consistency. Whoever might alleviate between blindness, exposing the sit home might be disfigured consideration when it comes to reorganizing recognizing the senselessness of one system, where we view it as if we're disabled, or we're disabled if we don't. Any of us who are non-disabled might know because it's designation of a temporary car crash or virus, a decision could lead to our status in ways that overcome. We have no control. Resistance must overcome the disability drives of force and incentives of reasons to look at, like the images of disability. We're starting to repel the fear of fascination available by people who look into the bear, but also cannot look into the bear. Non-disabled people react to the images of disability with aversion and reaction. Of course, the way that subjectivity shapes the disabled people like alternatives become unwavering pessimism, only refusal for the world can disrupt the current notion of pessimism, voting negative, refusal for the breath of life and coming in the world. Self 16. Disabled are dying, including pivotal disability studies. The grief communicates the pain of the terror. The research that attempts to fill the space of ideological constraints of optimism outside of a communication process. The layer of optimism has been communicatively imprinted upon the negotiation of disabled studies. Cultural races and disability permeate the collaborative process which presents disability on stage. The large purpose of it is to antagonize the race of the failure of disability communication studies by analyzing the pessimistic performances. That's the role of better who best disrupts the notions of progress within civil society, rejecting weighing arguments in the case of the critique. If we win the starting point of the society is flawed from the framing, they can't leverage and justifications. So, 2. Disability rarely enters the communication sphere. There are visceral questions about accompanied communication about disability have been strategically relocated when conversations about disability seem to permeate the messages that are inspirational optimism. Political correctness underscores the communication we operate within the rubric of conflict. Of disability represents an antagonism, foundational core of the American values. Of the radical promise of their theory is social stability, and they are complicit with the neoliberal eugenic process. The underlying the optimism goes to complete unquestioned social death has always occurred. The disabled being rendered culturally unintelligible and physical intelligible. We need a theory that can break down the notion of progress. Moving on to the role of the ballot, I'm just going to have some response to that. First of all, just apply all the warrants I'm about to read for reject their method. I'll get back to this in a second, but first of all, just start on flow. All the method answers are also going to apply here. Second, insofar as the AC doesn't warrant why death or war is inextricably tied with wrongness, there's no reason why we should ever deconstruct the security mindset. Third, this buys into the optimistic futurism mindset because it assumes that we should do something for the good of the future. If all I have to do is to win my ontology impacts, and then we win that their world about's bad. And for the theory of power is false. He concedes that violence occurs outside of the state. Means our theory of power is key to explain how violence operates and why it happens. It means you ought to prefer the NC. And also 5, he concedes that extinction isn't always bad. And so far as he can't account for extinction outside the margins. And 6, if we want ontology, it means you must embrace pessimism and shouldn't you shouldn't take actions like deconstruction. First of all, then going on to the 4 reasons to reject their method. First, even the state can be good in some instances. The links isolate why the apps use of the state specifically is bad. Prefer the links of specificity to working within the state might make it better for some, but always at the expense of deviant identities like disabled people. Third, working within the city is always a solvency deficit to the firm. This allows majoritarian structures like the state to control what it wants us to understand and learn. It means we'll never be able to resist and create radical change. If we're an impact filter to the firm, and we explain how and why oppression operates. Second, we reject a focus on material impacts. The only reason majoritarian structures are able to exclude deviant identities is by striding them with via physical attributes like his disability. Second, abstraction explains why material impacts happen in the first place. If we win our framing the critique, it's prerequisite to explain how and why material violence happens. And also, fourth, some level of abstraction is inevitable. There's no way we can walk in the shoes of everyone who's oppressed and exploited. Okay. I'm ready for cross.
One sec. My timer. I lost it. Okay. Alright, so I guess can you just give me a thesis for what your argument is? I guess specifically how are we affirming state action, actually? Your Millicent Lefranco 18 card. How are we affirming state action?
Hello?
Oh,
you're muted if you're talking.
Damn it, I was definitely muted while talking.
Oh.
Alright, I'll start cross again.
Okay, sorry about that.
So, starting on your Millicent Lefranco 18 card, how are we actually, affirming state action?
What do you mean, affirming?
How
sure.
are we causing a state action?
I mean, you're advocating for what is it we eliminate the use of laws or whatever the hell they're called. That's a state action.
Okay. All right. And your Mollow evidence. I mean, just all your Mollow stuff. So is there no way that we can ever see positive change?
Sure. The fact that you are concerned with stuff getting better, doesn't make sense because that's our ontology claims prove that these people are always going to be subjected to the violence, and then B, there's no reason why change is good. We should just be pessimistic.
Okay, so what's better about being pessimistic than optimistic?
Sure, change isn't going to happen. So it's insofar as optimism doesn't work, we should just be pessimistic because optimism is never going to work.
So I mean, maybe change won't happen specifically for the theory of Mollow, but how can we say that we're not going to actually prevent change in the real world?
Sure, that's the is-off fallacy. We're not saying that change isn't ever going to happen, but rather we shouldn't have change. Like whether change occurs doesn't change the fact that change is bad, and you advocating for change is bad.
So why is change bad?
That's just like our ontology claims, the disability drive, and then just like optimistic futurism.
But specifically, can you tell me why change is bad, other than just like listing like
Sure.
terms?
Disabled people are like always going to be subjected to violence. Like that mean like we're never going to like ever be able to solve it. So the fact that like we're concerned about being optimistic and trying to make things better doesn't make any sense because like that in the
It's like
process of doing so, we
discriminatory or
just
so. It's like discriminatory and violent towards them.
yeah.
Okay.
Change is
All right. And okay. I guess I do have time. Yeah. So, you say that like disabled people are like I guess like I guess I just question like what is your impact really? Like what should we be looking at if not material impacts?
Sure. That's just like the ontology is like the warrant of it, I guess. Like it's not a material impact, but rather just like abstract. We're not saying that this is how many people are going to die in the status quo. Rather, it's people are always subjected, like these disabled people, like ontologically dead.
Okay. So, but how do you
I mean,
solve
you
for that
can go
impact?
for like abstraction bad if you want. It'll be
I mean,
fun.
I'm wondering like how do you solve for this impact?
Sure. Like it's caused by optimism. We say no, optimism is bad. We're going to embrace pessimism because it's the only other option.
Okay, but
The idea is like,
does pessimism actually like prevent any of this violence? Like if we don't have any change, are we
sure,
really going to
solvency
see
is
anything
bad. We
healthy?
don't care about like whether we solve it because
Okay.
it's always going to happen.
Okay. I'll just take prep.
Okay, sounds good. Why you kind of got like downgraded. The white color is pretty ugly.
It really is. It really is. You know, it's fine though. I mean, it
That's
makes
what you
sense.
get for talking like Bush.
I mean, I don't talk like George Bush. I am George Bush.
Oh god, I can't believe instead of getting muted, like they egged you on and like encouraged you.
It's so funny. I mean, I love it.
Not the reaction I wanted.
Bro, I'm just sitting here like thinking, what on God's earth do I say to this?
Do you want a hint?
Sure, hit me.
This is relying on Psycho.
Psycho. Okay, yeah. See, I've heard that term before.
Yeah, psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
Claim like that we reflect, like you reflect violence onto yourself. That's a psychoanalytic concept. Like the only way you can prove that is through psychoanalysis. So you can just read any psycho block. Probably shouldn't have told you that.
Please.
Oh shit! Someone just sent me a pretty sick file.
What's the file?
I'm screen sharing the file. It's just like a big K file.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm not using that right now. All right, 2 minutes 45. That was a lot of time.
Do you want me to like repeat any of the analytics or anything?
No, I got most of the analytics down.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, the spreading was super unclear. I'm kind of tired.
Yeah, I'm
It's worse than usual.
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna say this isn't straight out of that file.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. That file. I already have it all blocked out, so that's fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, dude, this is like answers to other. Oh yeah. Okay, this is to see the. Okay, we're
I
good.
think
We're good.
this links.
Easy dubs. Yeah, that stuff is responsive. Don't worry.
Yeah.
At least like see the political. I didn't look at the other stuff.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay.
See, I hooked you up.
4-minute
Working.
speech. I'll start on K and then go to my case, but it'll just be like all these analytics first. Or not these analytics, these cards. I'm smart. I know my names. Okay. Empirics prove the world is better. Pessimism is fashionable nonsense. Norberg 17. World hunger would decline by 40%. Child mortality would have. Extreme poverty would fall by 3/4. The world has been a stunning development success. The most important goal to have the number of living in extreme poverty was met 5 years early. This is a widespread pessimism. I am optimistic, and I am optimistic for a reason, because we can actually solve things. Empirics prove loss in public opinion has shifted favorably towards queer people. Wilkinson 17. There can be little doubt that LGBT activism has been seen as the winner of many battles that constitute queer wars. 95 states have legislation protecting against discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation. 49 have laws enabling adoption. Civil partnerships are available in 25 states, and the same-sex marriage is now legal in 22 countries. This outweighs A, probability. Go with your gut. If it's more likely to decrease homophobia we saw legalized in gay marriage in the first 50 years is actually less homophobia, not an invisible resentment of some vague increased homophobia. B, veritability. Their argument is literally all your solutions fail because they seem successful. This co-option argument is falsifiable and therefore trivial. All this stuff links to queerness, disability, because they talk about how like disability is going to be hurting us, but like the same arguments are made for like why queer people are like are shunned out of society, but this isn't actually true. Like we're actually solving these problems. These problems are actually becoming better. They're saying that nothing is ever going to be better, but like people are actually able to come out as like disabled. People are allowed to embrace their disability. Like we see like people with ADHD and like depression have all been able to like actually find solvency in society and be accepted by society. See the political DA. Turn all of your terminal impacts. Even if politics is bad, you still make things so much worse. Boggs 2000. The existing power remains intact and insulated from critique. Minimalism gives carte blanche to elites who desire slavery, imperialist wars. If politics is reduced to everyday muddling through, then people are condemned to accept harsh realities of an exploitative and authoritarian system. Politics hardly suggests that corporate colonization or centralized state or military institutions will dramatically disappear. The public space vacated by ordinary citizens gives the elites more room to consolidate their power. I'll cut off the other two cards, but basically we see that empiric gains are possible, and that we can actually make things happen. So like go on to their case. They talk about how like basically governmentality is bad. Like I see their main link is basically the fact that like we're trying to cause change and we're affirming through the state. Like just don't even buy any state arguments. My advocacy is literally that like we make a rhizomatic movement for change to stop lethal autonomous weapons. It has nothing to do with the state. It's an individual level like advocacy that I want everybody in this room to do. I don't want you to like say the state should do it. Like I am advocating right now. That's my advocacy. They also say that like progress is impossible because it's like an ableist notion and it doesn't help people. But the issue with this is that we can make progress for these people and we can like help these people out. And yeah, that's cool. So on their alternative of unwavering pessimism, basically just don't buy that this actually solves anything. Like they say in Crossix specifically, first that like nothing is ever going to get better. They're like there's no actual reason to negate because like they aren't solving anything. Like they say that we are going to be causing bad impacts, but they say that those impacts are always going to be happening, which is not very good. And also they say that like the role of the ballot is to disrupt notions of progress, but they don't say how this is going to be helping anybody, and I also doubt that it's going to be helping anybody in the real world. Like disrupting notions of progress here in this debate round isn't probably actually going to be helping anybody, but if you actually like talk about state action and state power and try and deconstruct state power, you're probably actually going to be having an impact on the round, and we can actually like save people's lives, whereas like just like refusing to make any improvement to the world is not going to like be causing anything. Let's go into reasons why they say that my role of the ballot isn't good. They say that I don't give a warrant for why like people dying is bad. But like basically like it's just bad in general. Like you don't have to like give a reason for why specifically dying is bad, but also I'll say that it's better to like stop people, like especially like disabled people, from being killed in wars. Like we can see that we can stop the impacts of nuke war, we can stop the impacts of just people dying, we can stop the impacts of dehumanization. And they say that like that futurism is good and that's bad, but they don't really like tell you really like why futurism is that terrible, especially at the point where they say that like pessimism doesn't even solve anything, and they just talk about their violence, but change is possible. Like look at all my evidence saying why change is possible, and they say that the app uses the state, but I literally don't use the state, so don't buy any of their state links. They basically only like me or dislike me for using futurism, but futurism can actually make change and futurism can actually solve problems.
Okay, wait, am I muted? Okay, great. Wait, how much time did I have? Oh, I took 1 minute. Yeah, because my timer's at 3 minutes. Is that right? Did I even take prep? I don't remember.
You took like 2 minutes, I think. 2
I
minutes,
took
30
2
seconds
minutes.
ish. I don't know. Just take two.
Okay. Okay, sure. 2 minutes. Time starts now. Okay, so I heard there were some arguments like on ontology. I kind of got like mixed up like when writing stuff down. What were they? Like did you said so yeah, did you have like any arguments against ontology or what did you say?
I basically just read the evidence saying that futurism is possible, and then I just say like you don't solve for any of the problems, I guess,
Why do I need to solve?
because we see that like we can
Okay,
actually.
and also isn't that like an argument against the alt?
Huh?
Isn't that an argument against the alt like solvency stuff?
Yeah, I'd say it's an argument against the alt because you don't solve for any of the problems. Like I'll just say like the alternative, or sorry, the advocacy is better than the alternative. Like I'm not,
Okay, sure.
like I don't think that pessimism is the way to go. Yeah.
Cool. The Wilkson card that was specific to queer people. Why does it apply?
I already said it's specific because like most of your impacts are about like the parent-child relationship and like how we need to be doing these things, and like that would probably impact out to queer people. But it's also just like an indication that people who were like historically oppressed have actually seen gains in rights. Like we can see that disabled people can actually be helped. Like in the same way where like we reflect on people and say like, oh, I don't want to be disabled. A lot of people have done that with queer people in the past, and we've been able to like overcome these problems.
But why does like queer pest has completely different like ontology claims? How can that take out any mind?
I'd say it's still pessimistic, and I'd just say futurism still works. Like,
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, if you want to delineate how the pest differs, sure.
Okay, sure. And then you just made lots of arguments like about why. So you made arguments of just like why I guess like change is good. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's time. I don't have like a doc to send out or anything. If that's okay with you, I'll just try to be like extra good with signposting, and I'll go like a little bit slower. My spreading is a little bit off today. Is that good with you?
Yeah.
Okay, and you want a roadmap? I'm assuming.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So roadmap is just gonna be like extending. So roll the ballot debate. I'm just gonna be like extending roll the ballot. Like extending the responses on your roll the ballot, responding to any arguments you put on it. I guess. Then I'll move on to like link debate, like frontline your arguments after I extend my link, and then impact, like extend impact, just frontline, etc. Then just all, and I'll just like do miscellaneous stuff. I guess. Is everyone ready? Okay, I'm just gonna assume we're all good. Okay, 6 minutes on the clock. Time starts now. Actually, just before I forget, I'm just gonna like go on a generic thing. He tries to hit so hard on like how I don't solve and that, like, oh, we don't have any solvency. The world won't, like, we can't fix any of the problems. First of all, turn all of this. If I win futurism, if I win my ontology claims, that proves on that solvency is bad, since it buys into the idea of futurism, which means you can literally impact her in every single argument about why we don't solve and why he is key to solving. That just proves like everything he says, like that's a reason to vote for me, because once again, solvency is bad, so me not solving, that's a good thing. I should get a thumbs up there. And that means if he tries to make any arguments about how he solves, you can just impact on them. He has to address like why he doesn't solve, or like address his argument, or else it's like actively offense for me. Sure, let's just like I guess move on to so just, you can extend the role of the ballot just to vote for the vote for the debate or the best deconstructs our notions of progress. That's our self evidence. It impact turns the entirety of the framing mechanism by showing that the framing produces violent knowledge production is just tied to eugenics or eugenic projects, because their framing mechanism is predicated on a future where ontology arguments make a structural claim that disability is excluded from the future. That turns their framing mechanism because it invisibilizes the inevitable violence against disability. The only ethical orientation one can hold is that like their space is futuristic. If we win ontology, then also it's going to like supercharge our framing mechanism. They should not be able to weigh the case, because once again, fiat's illusory, that goes conceded. The only thing your ballot can do is resolve issues of epistemology by bypassing justifications about how knowledge is derived. It justifies things such as stop and risk and waterboarding. Once again, even if they win, that they can solve the case, doesn't matter, since your ballot should be a referendum of solely disrupting notions on progress. He doesn't have a single response to my roll of ballot. It means like I don't have really anything to frontline here. Once again, like he concedes like the majority of my arguments against his rollout. You can see that his theory of power is false, and you ought to prefer mine because he concedes that violence can occur outside of the state. Means that our theory of power is like is key to explain, and you ought to prefer the NC. So once again, like right off the bat, I won the roll of the ballot. I'll like explain the implications of this later. Just move on to the link debate. First of all, there's an optimism double blind here. Either affirmative attempts to move or improve the status quo, in which they're definitionally a form of optimistic futurism, or they are the status quo, in which you can just vote neg on presumption because there's literally no change. There's no reason to vote AF. They're clearly optimistic. They link to the K, regardless of whether or not they use state, regardless of who acts. The fact that they are advocating for an action, that's futurism. It doesn't matter if it's a state or not. Disability is it also means they link to the case since disability is not a redeemable position within civil society, and claiming that progress is possible and the world is reformable invisibilizes the inevitable violence against disabled folk. If we went on ontology and a link, vote negative because we impact turns the premise that justification is the one AC. Now let's move on to address address his arguments against this. So once again, his only argument against the link, he says that he doesn't advocate for state action. Two responses. First, just means you vote neg because he literally is advocating the status quo. And second, any action is bad. We're taking problem with action, not a specific actor. So once again, it doesn't matter who is like instituting this policy or who is doing this action. The fact that he is acting is like what makes him link. So once again, don't give him a D link just because he's not using the state and he's using some other actor. Moving on to the ontology, that's the impact debate. First of all, you can extend the disability drive. The world is structured by the disability drive. All interactions happen through self-reflection. For example, if someone were to get punched in the face, the subject understands that punch pain through a reflection of the punch on themselves. When an able-bodied person interacts with a disabled person, the able-bodied person reflects the disabled person in pain through like the social location on themselves. This causes to acknowledge that ability is status is ultimately temporary. This causes a moment of ego death because disability is in opposition to the ego's investment in healthiness and longevity. In order to regain self, the ego distances itself from disability through feelings of superiority. This effective response can be seen through legal eradication of Down syndrome babies, because once again, like 90% of Down syndrome babies are aborted because the parents don't think they have any future. That also proves the ontology claim. It justifies ontological antagonism because it's highlighted in our Hughes evidence. Ontology comes first and it shapes the world and understanding. If we went on ontology in a link, then it's game over because we've won the foundations of the very way the 1AC situates itself on policies violent in the form, and the content only ethical orientation is pessimism. We don't need to win the alternative since we already impact turn the premise and justification of the 1AC. That's Mollow 1 means that once again you can, because I don't have to win the alt, that means you can scratch off all the arguments again that he put on the alt. I'll explain what those were later, but I'm going to win the alt anyways. Once again, you can also extend the second link that was a futurism. The figure of the child sustains a rehabilitative order towards the future. The idea of not fighting for the child or universal disability becomes unthinkable as it threatens the collapse of the entire symbolic order. No here means no future, which requires eugenic extermination of disabled to continue through the symbolic order. Once again, if he chose to go for abstracted bad, this is a material impact, justifies eugenics and literally like any genocide. Once again, that's material impact. He concedes like all the ontology stuff means like you can vote neg right on base. Just to frontline his arguments, the only argument against the impact is the Nordberg. But once again, that doesn't take out any of my warrants. It's non-responsive to any of my warrants. It's like specific to other stuff, not this. Insofar as he doesn't interact with any of my ontology warrants, I still win it. Don't buy some extension of some non-responsive blip. He also argues that he talks about like change being good and stuff. Once again, like you can just like turn this argument. I've already proved solvency is bad. That was at the beginning of my speech. Our alternative is unyielding pessimism. It's the only ethical orientation, and all other orientation breeds life and validity through violent structures. The only ethical option is pessimism, which takes power away from the structures that support violence. Don't try to solve anything. Our alternative is the only ethical option. Also takes out the perm. Don't let them go for a new 2AR perm. Because once again, the framing issue on the perm is debate is that there's no external benefit. Or roll the ballot's the only way to disrupt optimism. So the app is not offense. Let's just frontline the other arguments. And the seed the political. A couple responses. First, political has already been seeded. We critique the idea that some politics get better or worse. It does. They stay the same. It'll always remain like anti like disabled people, which means that the alt is only one with risk of offense. Second, Boggs flows neg. It says the only solution is grassroots, not political change. He's just completely straw manning and equivocating to its author. And third, don't buy this. It also says that we should try to not make change because it might get better. The state might be good, but it's the same logic that used to suppress civil rights movements and other movements. It's an independent DA to this card. What else? So once again, the Witten thing, I already don't let him extend that. I already impact turn change. Also, once again, that also takes out the Bayern edge or however you pronounce that. So basically every single card here, it just like talks about, and once again, Wilkinson's 17 is non-responsive. Basically everything here is either non-responsive or just like completely strawman. I've already like won pretty much every part of the K, means you have to vote neg.
All right, prepping. I have like a minute-ish. mean, I don't actually know where I'll be. It'll be somewhere. I guess probably like mostly roll of the ballot. I guess I floored most of the stuff on my roll of the ballot, so I'll just sit there probably. But yeah, okay.
That sounds good. I'll mute myself, but I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah. On the roll of the ballot, my opponent basically concedes that like futurism is possible. Like they try and like respond to all the evidence talking about it, but they don't actually respond to like Norberg talking about like the fact that like we can actually make change. He says like it's strawman and like it's not an important thing, but like the fact of the matter is like that futurism. Oh, how did I mute myself? Jesus Christ. Okay, starting that again. I need to stop muting myself in speech.
Oh, rip.
All right. Starting out on the Norberg evidence and the Wilkinson evidence, my opponent basically concedes these. He says that the Norberg evidence is like strawman, and it doesn't matter. But like optimism is a good thing. Like you should be erring towards optimism and actually like erring towards just deconstructing security, because it actually can like cause positive impacts. They only talk about like it's bad because like we don't delineate why it's important to do these things. But I say like specifically in cross-sex, like it's important to like talk about optimism because we can actually help people. Like we can actually allow people to live their best lives. We can even let disabled people live the lives to the best of their ability with freedom. Like they concede basically like all of our arguments about why state control is bad, and by like doing nothing and negating, we basically choose to allow the state to control everybody. We allow them to have arms control, and we allow them to just continue to the violence. Like my opponent specifically talks about how like the state is bad and the state is oppressive, and I agree, and that's why we should be actually deconstructing the state and deconstructing the state mentality. The alternative does nothing to actually stop the state from oppressing us. It just like is an individual action, whereas the advocacy actually stops state oppression and it actually stops things from happening that are bad. And this is specifically an advocacy that is rhizomatic and asks for change. They say that like Wilkinson, they say that like things don't matter. And like I think it's Boggs doesn't matter because it's a grassroots campaign. But literally the advocacy is a grassroots campaign. You'll see somewhere in my solvency card I specifically say that this is an opportunity for rhizomatic change. Like we link specifically into this evidence, and we link into evidence that says that like political change can happen and grassroots campaigns can happen. Wilkinson also links. He says it doesn't link because we're talking about queerness rather than disability, but he doesn't actually explain why there's a difference. Like eugenics and like these things and like killing off gay people happened before, but we have actually solved these problems. And like specifically like on the impact level, they say that like there's a bunch of bad impacts and that like they have material impacts, specifically like 99% of down babies getting aborted and like eugenics occurring, but we can't solve any of these if we vote for the alternative. The alternative basically says that these things will never get fixed, and he literally reads off terrible things that are happening in the status quo, but he's not advocating for any change. He's just like accepting the way the world is and just saying that that's good. He says that action is always bad, but he doesn't explain how he's going to be solving for any of the problems of action being bad. Like sure, action might be bad for this one issue, but he doesn't explain how like rejecting this action is really going to prevent those impacts. Like there's always going to be more actions, there's always going to be people thinking. So in this round, you should like first be voting like on the roll of the ballot issues. Like the fact that change is possible. His only response as to why we shouldn't be accepting my roll of the ballot is because change is bad, and we should be instead, you know, rejecting everything. But at the point where you say that like change is possible and change is good and like change has led to positive outcomes for these oppressed groups, you probably shouldn't be buying this. Like he talks about how this change isn't going to be helping these people, but we've proven that it can change. We've proven that we're a grassroots campaign that's actually looking for the help of everybody. But specifically, like if you don't allow this, we can lead like to the impacts of nuclear war. We can lead to the impacts of dehumanization of queer people. And basically like an affirmative ballot rejects the notion that state power is all controlling and that anybody should have the power to determine like what your life is versus others. So like we solve for queer impacts better. That was messy. That was a little messy, not gonna lie.
Good round.
Like, yeah, good thing I recorded it.
Yeah.